ocean is something to be respected, absolutely, and it can shift and change so drastically, and you do have to pay it great respect because it can be a very dangerous place. But that's sort of what I like about it as well. I've had lots of surfing experiences where I've been crunched on reefs and, dragged across the bottom of the ocean, but I wouldn't actually call that bad, it's just interesting. It's the most wonderful feeling, I think. It's even a better feeling than climbing trees for me. It just makes me feel like everything will be all right with the world. Before I came to Tasmania, I was a writer for a long time. I'm a poet and mainly poetry and short fiction. I was working on an amazing magazine on the editorial committee and doing lots of amazing arts projects. And I was planning on heading to Sri Lanka for 6 months to write my first novel and to go surfing and live in a little nice community where I could, help out. And then I came down to Tassie, went out to the Styx Valley, and then that sort of threw all of my plans out. When I first came here, I'd never seen a landscape across the entire world that was quite like this. And, people talk about Tasmanian forests in a lot of different ways, but I don't think there's actually any words that are adequate to describe these incredible ecosystems. So I came here and just fell in love. And then in December 2007, Forestry Tasmania and Guns Limited came in here and logged it. It felt like the whole world had just dropped away, and you're standing on the edge of this, gaping abyss of what was once this amazingly layered, beautiful, intricate ecosystem that's been evolving for thousands of years and which is very close to your heart because you've spent hours and hours watching how the forest changes from minute to minute and day to day and month to month, and then just to see this absolutely brutal decimation. And I just sort of thought, well, this is the worst you can do to me. Like, this is my heart and you've just smashed it. But this is the worst you can do. So if I can get through this, then I think I'm, can get through anything. It makes my heart really hurt to come here and see the place that I loved just gone. It is also very inspiring, and it's like, I don't want to see this happening here or anywhere else in the world, so it's just a real, a source of inspiration to keep working and doing whatever I can and whatever we can to stop it. Now we're at Camp Flozza, which is in the heart of the Upper Florentine Valley. When I first came to this site, there was no road here, there was a beautiful forest that we walked through, and it was just amazing. I'd been living in the sticks for a while, and then we decided to start a campaign out here, and it was just incredible. So I've been around here for the whole time the camp's been in existence, which is 4.5 years now. It provides just a focus point for the message. This one valley represents all of Tasmania's forests, which are being destroyed every day, and so it does become that sort of point where people can converge and take action. Direct action is a really, really clever tool to use if it's used strategically. Doing everything you can to, number one, try and halt the work, and number two, try to get the message out that, this amazing forest is being logged. So people basically sitting in a tree sit, high up in the trees. The sits are, sometimes 50 metres or more above the ground, and the tree sit's basically attached to a structure that blocks the road. So if you move the structure, then the sit will fall. So they have ways that they can get around that, but it takes a lot of time, so it's basically a delaying tactic. We also had people in dragons, which are basically car bodies which are cemented into the road, and people with their arms locked into the bottom of the road. So you're blocking it, I guess, the road at a whole number of different points. And then we sort of had our ACE card, which was a tunnel which had been dug under the road, and someone was down there locked on inside the tunnel, and that went right under the road. That tunnel was incredibly effective. It kept them out for 3 days. In the case of this blockade here, I mean, if we hadn't have been here for 4.5 years, this whole valley would have been absolutely smashed. And so I guess the way I look at it is this blockade and this particular example of direct action is a way of sort of pressing pause on the destruction. The first 2 years I was doing this, I was probably running on anger predominantly, which can be a very powerful source. After a couple of years, I was looking around at what happens when people run off anger for a long time, and generally what happens is they just fry and burn out and sort of disappear forever and, do other things, but, obviously don't keep campaigning and working on these important issues, or they just become very bitter people, and I just thought I don't want to be like that. I've often been the contractor liaison or the police liaison in many of our hundreds of actions that we've done, and I think it's a difficult role, but in many ways a good role, because you are, you're communicating with, I guess, people who don't necessarily share your point of view, and probably in all cases don't actually want you to be there doing what you're doing. But I think it's an important role, and one which I do actually quite enjoy, because you do get these different perspectives and you can have those sort of debates about what's happening. We've been called everything from, terrorists to Trotskyite extremists to, every single sort of name in the book has been, thrown at us as a group, or, at myself personally. And obviously, the word violence gets used a lot, and I think it's a real shame that these terms are flung around, because one thing that we do take incredibly seriously, apart from how much we love these forests, is that we adhere absolutely strictly to non-violent principles and non-violent actions. And there's that old saying that, once you get to a certain point, if people are putting that much energy into insulting you and degrading you, then maybe that's a sign that you're starting to win a little bit. So I just choose to look at it like that. We've had some incredible community events out here, some incredible theatrical events like our annual cabaret, where we've had, a Cirque du Soleil trapeze artist swinging from the trees up there. That was just spectacular. And just, I suppose, this is a place where, for me, so many of the most important people in my life are, so many of them I've actually met here because they've come down to Tasmania. I don't necessarily have a hope that humans are going to be evolved enough to actually see what they're doing and stop that in time, but I keep working on it because I think it is the right thing to do, and it is really important that people are doing this. Really, we're all just tiny little blips on the edge of the universe, and if you can be a little tiny blip with a sense of honour and respect for other people and all other living things, then that's the only way to sort of live, in my view.